A very good evening to you and welcome to KTN Prime on this Tuesday. It's the 6th day of June 2017. My name is Sophia Wanuna. Our sign language interpreter tonight is William Stiller. We have a great hour coming up. Ben, don't we?
Indeed, we have Sophia. Good evening from the KTN News Center. I am Ben Kitili. This day, exactly 62 days to the August 8th general election, and tonight we shall be taking stock of the country's preparedness for the elections. We shall be speaking to Commissioner of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Dr. Rosalind Akombe, to just shed some more light. More officers being sacked by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission this close to the election. We shall be taking a look at those issues, among others, later on here on KTN Prime. All
right, let's get started with a look at our top stories tonight.
Tuna msaada wote katika hizo stadi ambazo za kusaidia kama si watu wa chini.
We provided the framework to guide in the negotiations. Very early in the negotiation process.
9 confirmed dead in Mombasa. Salaries Commission blames governors over nurses' strike.
If you conduct any election in which a returning officer does not come into direct contact with a presiding officer, that election departs from the architecture of Article 80.
Landmark decision expected tomorrow as IEBC fights ruling on presidential election results.
Tumekuja na cheki ya shilingi milioni 358.
10 years later, cash unleashed for those displaced in Kisii in the 2007 election chaos.
Nilikuwa nimechoka na kwanza nilikuwa na mwingine, huyo mwingine alikuwa nyanyangu.
So what are you doing to make the world a better place? Meet the woman who carries grannies on her back.
Welcome to the broadcast. So Kenya is in the thick of yet another health crisis, this time pitting nurses against the government. And tonight, as the Salaries and Remuneration Commission shifted the blame over the nurses' strike to the Council of Governors, at least 8 people have been confirmed dead in Mombasa alone in what has been linked to the absence of nurses.
Now, the nurses' union leadership is divided over the legality of the strike, but the crisis has gripped hospitals across the nation as patients were turned away, some so sick that walking away from public hospitals nearly killed them. So let's begin our broadcast tonight with our Coast reporter, Francis Ontoma, with more details on that.
Confusion grips Ward 6 of the Coast General Hospital. Panic seems to be sending everyone into a frenzy. Another death has just been recorded in less than 48 hours since the strike was called. The bereaved too shaken to utter a word. A health crisis that is fast building at the region's largest health facility. Everything seems to have been thrown into disarray. Most patients now left in a state of confusion.
Na mwili umezidi kuwa mzito huu. Tatoka niende kwa nani? Nimekimbilia hapa ili kwa serikali inisaidie.
Tuko tu hapa. Dawa ndio nilikuwa ngeenda kanunua mimi mwenyewe. Na ikifikia siku ya jana tukaambiwa tutoke sote, manasi wamegoma. Hakuna huduma itakoendelea.
Hospital authorities have now issued orders for patients to vacate their premises. Orders that don't seem to spare even those in critical condition. A father of 4, Isaac Kinonda, is battling a rare abdominal illness. Even with little care coming from hospital attendants, his hospital bill is rising. Since the strike began, this friend has had to abandon his duties to act the nurse. He attends to all his needs until when a doctor will show up.
Watu waliambiwa watoke sababu hakuna huduma. Lakini sina uwezo, taenda wapi? Sina mahali pa kwenda.
And we are telling our other counties within Coast Region, we are all facing the same situation. So they should not take patients who are very ill and come and bring them to our facilities only to get there and die, just for dying into our facility. So that is very bad.
Most of those admitted have been served with discharge notes. This little boy is in class 3. His uncle says he's paralyzed and yet to recover. Even in such extremes, the axe hasn't spared him either. Hospital authorities say he needs to go. he has a pending bill of 19,000 shillings already.
Mimi ni babake mdogo na babake alishafariki, hata mamake alishafariki. Sasa mimi namlea kama mtoto wangu.
Pressure is mounting for most families here. Well, it has been a couple of hours since the strike began, and an untold suffering has already started to visit the Coast Provincial General Hospital. And the tall order now for patients has everything to do with bills. For instance, right here, I'm holding the bill of one patient, 61 years of age. He has only lasted here for 30 days, and his bill reads 90,019 shillings. He has to clear this bill before he's discharged. Even for doctors, their roles appear to have been hampered. Nurses Union say the storm has just begun, and there will be no letting go until their CBA is fully settled. The suffering is slowly pushing many into despair.
Mgomo huu ambao tunaendelea si jukumu la chama cha wauguzi tawi la Mombasa kushughulikia. Huu ni mgomo ambao uko nchi mzima.
Nurses say the Council of Governors has let them down on this quest. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission also standing aloof. A confusion that many fear could yet again spin the situation out of hand. The situation in Mombasa has been replicated in most counties across Kenya. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
Indeed, heartbreaking some of those experiences patients have to undergo. And indeed, fresh intrigues surrounding the two-day-old nurses' strike have emerged with an apparent rift among union officials on the legality of the nurses' strike.
Well, Union Chair John B. declared the strike unprotected, but in a quick rejoinder, the Deputy Secretary General of the Nurses Union, Maurice Opetu, insists that the industrial action is on.
And Timothy Atieno will be telling us just in a short while about what appears to be a strike that has split the Council of Governors, as well as the SRC. We'll be getting more details on that in just a short while.
Indeed, in other stories, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC has accused the High Court of creating a constitutional crisis in the August election over an April ruling that barred the Commission from verifying presidential results from the constituencies.
And as our political affairs reporter Muremi Mwangi now tells us, Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai also poked holes into the ruling as he made his presentation before the Appellate Court, which is hearing an appeal by the IEBC against the decision.
With a countdown of 62 days to what now promises to be the toughest battle to State House. The legal team representing Kenyan electoral body IEBC fought hard in trying to persuade a 5-judge bench of the Court of Appeal to overturn the April 7th High Court verdict that barred the Commission from verifying presidential results received from the 290 constituency returning officers before declaring a winner.
We are human beings. It is, if you add, in this election, there are 40,000 polling stations. If you add 40,000 numbers, there will be mistakes. We are human beings, and we need to take that on board.
The numbers of registered voters in all of these places, no. Yes, they are no. Now, if they are no, constituency X, total number is 200,000. Yes. And it's there. The whole world knows. And then somebody purports to bring in 300,000. Are you saying people will say, oh, yeah, that's okay?
Verification has wrongly been taken to mean alteration. Verification is not alteration. Because election material are accountable material.
But civil activists Maina Kiai, Helif Halifa, and Tirop Kitur, through lawyer Willis Otieno, defended the finality of presidential results at the constituency level, arguing that a re-verification at the National Tallying Center could create loopholes for results tampering.
It is regrettable.
This even as Chief Government Legal Advisor, Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai, accused the High Court of misinterpreting the Kenyan electoral law by entertaining a political question disguised as a constitutional query.
No judge
should ever ask that question, because that question is not a constitutional question, it is not a legal question, it is a political question.
If you conduct any election in which a returning officer does not come into direct contact with a presiding officer, that election departs from the architecture of Article 86.
In their April 7th ruling, High Court judges Chacha Muita, Agrem Chelule, and Weldon Korir directed that any dispute on the constituency presidential tally should only be challenged in an election court, a finding which IEBC and the AG argued would create a logistical nightmare and would potentially sink the country into chaos. The opposition under the National Super Alliance, which was enjoined in the appeal as the sixth respondent, will make its presentation on Wednesday through Siaya Senator, Senior Counsel James Orengo, and lawyer Paul Mwangi. And so, with the spotlight tightly on the sanctity of the tallying process for the presidential vote, the developments in this court will no doubt be closely watched as the hearing enters day 2. Murumi Mwangi, KTN News, at the Court of Appeal in Nairobi.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission appears to be cleaning its house in a move that has seen the sacking of its procurement director, Lawi Aura, over delayed sourcing of ballot papers.
Aura was relieved of his duties barely 10 days after the director of ICT was sent on a 30-day compulsory leave.
And concerns have been raised in certain quarters over the rationale of replacing key figures this close to the general election.
Duncan Hamba with the details.
In a statement, IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati says firing its procurement director, Lawi Aura, was necessitated by incompetence that has made operations untenable as we fast approach the general election. Aura has now been recalled to the National Treasury, which had seconded him to IEBC. Multiple sources hint that Aura is a second victim of the vicious wars between IEBC commissioners and the Secretariat, which has been accused of deliberately sabotaging the election preparations at the anniversary towers as they battle for tenders. Commissioners are said to be getting increasingly frustrated by the manner in which the Secretariat is dragging its feet on various critical matters, despite being cognizant of the fact that time is fast running out. For instance, with only 62 days to go, ballot papers are yet to be obtained, bearing in mind the high number of candidates participating in the general election, the highest ever in the country's history. Aura is said to have advised against awarding the deal to Dubai-based Al Ghurair Printing and Publishing Company through single sourcing, but the commissioners are pushing for the Dubai firm, citing a report prepared by Director of Elections, Immaculate Kasait, recommending it. Sources indicate that CEO Ezra Chiloba has requested the Commission to present in writing any directive to award the deal or seek legal opinion from the State Law Office on the level of involvement of commissioners in procurement matters. In his statement, Chebukati alluded to the row within his team. He says, "We have noted with deep concern the growing anxiety associated with the ballot procurement, in particular the bidding process and ultimate selection of the supplier." And he adds that the Commission is addressing the issue of procurement of ballot material with utmost urgency. "We are making every effort in reducing the delay in the selection of the supplier, and we will inform the nation of our options soon." 2 weeks ago, High Court Judge George Odunga issued a temporary order suspending the decision of the Procurement Board, which nullified the initial 2.5 billion tender that had been awarded to a Dubai firm, Al Ghurair Printing and Publishing Company. The firm was to supply 130 million ballot papers. Just 10 days ago, IEBC Director of ICT James Muhati was sent on a 30-day compulsory leave for failing to cooperate in the provision of information with audit. Muhati was shown the door following a report by the Audit, Risk and Compliance Department. He is alleged to have failed to cooperate in the provision of information requested from the department. This is reported to be contrary to the Public Finance and Management Regulations of 2015. The Act grants the Directorate of Audit, Risk and Compliance unrestricted, direct and prompt access to all records, official or personal, so long as they are relevant to the performance of the audit function. In just 10 days, 2 senior officials at IEBC have been sent packing with only 2 months to go before the general election. Is it sabotage at play or is it a cleanup? Duncan Hemba, KTN News, Nairobi.
All right, so apart from firing top managers, tonight our sources tell us that the KPMG group may have completed the audit of the voters' register.
Is that the case, and how many dead voters have they removed from the 2013 voter roll?
Well, we have with us tonight one of the IEBC commissioners, Dr. Roslyn Akombe, who is in charge of electoral processes.
She'll be telling us more exactly what is going on in regard to the August polls. But first, let's go to Kisii. But before we do that, let's bring you our big question discussion, Sophia.
Yes, tonight on our Big Q, we're asking you, have you verified your voter registration details? And if so, were they in order?
Tell us that. Text us 22155 is our studio line. You can tweet us as well at Sophia Wanuna, at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya. The hashtag is KTN Prime. President Uhuru Kenyatta started his tour of the Kisii and Nyamira counties and made sure that about 7,000 people in Kisii who were displaced during the 2007-2008 post-election violence are compensated.
The president said that he has set up a special team and ordered National IDP's coordinator Aidan Wachu to make sure that all the IDPs are compensated once and for all.
Our South Nyanza reporter Fred Moturu brings us the details from there.
Most of the internally displaced got integrated within Kisii County, and if the president's message is something to go by, then they have a reason to smile all the way to the bank.
Na hiyo mimi naamini ya kwamba imelete sasa suluhu ya kudumu na ya kumaliza, na ndio hawa Wakenya wenzetu ambao walikuwa wamehamishwa kwa sababu ya vita ya kisiasa waweze kuwa na maisha, waweze kuendelea na maisha yao ile na vile inatakikana.
Wale waadhiriwa ambao waliumia sana wakati ule shetani alitutembelea nchi yetu, wameumia miaka hiyo yote, hawakuweza kushughulikiwa na ile serikali ya muungano. Lakini serikali yako leo imefika hapa Masimba kuwaokoa hawa wananchi wetu.
The president gave out 358 million shillings for the IDPs and said Nyamira County IDPs will get 470 million shillings since they are more than those in Kisii County.
Kama Wakenya, hatuwezi tena kukubali ya kwamba siasa itakuwa mambo ya kumwaga damu na kuharibu mali ya watu. Kila mtu aombe kura kwa utulivu. Yes. Aombe kura kwa kuuza sera zake. Yes. Hakuna haja ya kutusi mwenzako.
Tumeamua 2017 kura zetu zote ni zake.
The Gusii IDP issue has remained a thorny one, even as the government officials kept telling the nation that all IDPs had been sorted out.
Wananchi siku hizi ni werevu. Mutasikia maneno ya wote na mutajiamulia nyinyi wenyewe upande mtapiga.
Names of those who have benefited were vetted from a list forwarded to the National Coordination Consultative Committee on IDPs by the IDPs network patron Evans Misati. Uhuru gave the symbolic dummy check at Masimba High School. At the same time, the president accused opposition chiefs of inciting Kenyans. Uhuru, who addressed the public at Masimba, Keroka, Birongo, Keumbu, Nyakoe and Kisii Town, hit out at NASA over their claims that Mumias Sugar legal officer Ronald Lubia was killed for refusing to give in to sugar imports.
Naomba viongozi wote tuchunge yale ambayo tuwasema, tusije tena kuwaletea wananchi wa Kenya shida kwa sababu ya careless talk. Na kama uko na kitu ambao unajua, kwani si uende kwa polisi? Kwa nini unakuja kusema kwa hotuba ya baraza? Wananchi watakusaidia na nini kusuluhisha hiyo? Kwenda kwa wale ambao wanahusika.
Right, let's now bring in IEBC Commissioner Dr. Rosalind Akombe to just shed some more light on some of those issues. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast, madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ben.
All right, so on May 26th, the Director of ICT, James Muhati, was sent on compulsory leave for 30 days. The latest today is that IEBC has sacked Procurement Director Lawi Aura. Does this mean more heads are going to roll? And shouldn't it worry Kenyans because it is happening this close to the election, 2 months to the election?
Thank you so much, Ben, and I think it's very important for you to raise these questions with us. You know, we've been observing for the last 4 months that we have been working at the IEBC, looking at the various processes, looking at the various procedures and actions that the Secretariat has been undertaking. There are areas that we have found strengths in, especially with the work of our returning officers and both the field, the constituency level and the county level. We've been very pleased with the level of work that they're doing there. But obviously we've been disappointed with some of the actions that we have seen, especially in the procurement department. You have seen that for many months now we have been subject of litigation, and we've been very concerned at the delay in procurement of key things, especially the ballot papers. And there is a very damning report that has come out from the Procurement Review Board that basically says that the process that was used to procure the ballot papers was fundamentally flawed, that it could be termed a sham, that it could be termed an embarrassment, that it could not be perceived to have met the threshold as stipulated in the Procurement Act, but also in the Constitution.
All right.
So when you are left with a situation in which you have processes that are undermining our Constitution and our laws, then as a Commission we have no choice but to ask those who are accountable to step aside.
Before we talk about the sticking point in that ballot issue, what Kenyans will be asking, it is too close to the election. Will the replacements, the sacked officers have enough time to familiarize themselves with the systems at IEBC and be ready for the elections?
We're absolutely confident that that will happen because, you know, IEBC is an institution. It's not individuals. We have an institution that is well established. We have staff in procurement department who've been doing this work before. I mean, people get sick. That means there are people who take over and act when those people are not feeling well. And we have every confidence that the rest of the remaining staff that we have within the procurement department are able to move forward. And actually, they are already moving forward in terms of preparations for the documents that are required for procurement of the ballot papers. Right. We have every confidence in that. And we've seen it actually with our IT department, ICT, that when we had our director when he was asked to go on compulsory leave, the acting director took up the responsibilities, and you saw the nomination process for candidates registration take place seamlessly using a new technology.
Right. What are the sticking points in this issue of procurement of the ballots?
I think I've alluded to one part of it, which is the issue of, you know, if you read that report as a Kenyan, there is no way you can read that report and leave the person who's in charge of procuring still be in office, because it goes to the point of touching on the professionalism and whether there was any seriousness taken, and whether the people who are doing that, looking at the document itself, the tender document, understood the enormity of the task. This is a huge responsibility. Ballot boxes, ballot papers are important for any electoral process. So when as an officer you have been given that responsibility on behalf of the Kenyan voters, on behalf of the Kenyan people, you have to take that responsibility seriously. And if you do not take that responsibility seriously, if you do not realize that it is important for you to do your part of the job, a small part of it, but it's a very important job, then we have no choice as a commission than to ask you to step aside and to leave other people who understand the importance of this task to do that on behalf of the Kenyan voters.
Why does the Commission want to be involved in the tendering process? Isn't it meddling in what should be purely the work of the Secretariat?
You know, Ben, if you look at the IEBC Act, it's very clear. It gives the commissioners 3 key responsibilities: strategy, oversight, and also policy. Oversight is exactly what we're doing. It is our responsibility to have an oversight over everything that happens in the Commission. We're not asking to go and sit down in the evaluation boards and sit at Lillian Towers and look at the tender documents. Absolutely not. What we are doing is exercising our oversight responsibility, for which we took the oath of office and said that we'll fulfill those functions. Right. And we are not about to leave aside and be intimidated by whoever not to do those functions. That is a responsibility the Kenyan people have tasked to the 8 of us and that to the 7 of us, and that is a task that we will take seriously.
Before I ask you about the KPMG audit report, following this Aura story, it seems that what we know as the official communication team of the IEBC was not aware of the communication by the chair of Wafula Chebukati until later on, pointing to some kind of disparity or disjointed operations. Are there differences between the Commission and the Secretariat?
I mean, Ben, there will always, in any institution and in big bureaucracies where I've worked before, there will always be challenges. Even in your own family, there will always be good days, there will be bad days. Those are challenges that the Commission has, just like any institution. But I do not believe that it is anything that will undermine our ability to be able to deliver free and fair elections. There are those challenges that we'll have to keep dealing with. And we have said to our staff all over that we're here to ensure that anybody who stands in the way of us delivering free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections to the Kenyan people, will deal with them.
All right. Our sources tell us that much-awaited report, audit by the KPMG of the voter register, is out. Anything you can tell us?
Yes, we've had briefings with KPMG on the audit report. We know just vaguely that some of the recommendations are far-reaching in terms of the legal reforms that need to be done, both within the ICC and IEBC and other institutions. And but the details of the numbers and such details, we're yet to get the concrete report itself. And once we have that, we will obviously send that report to the National Assembly. We will also send that report to the Senate, and we'll be ready to come back and delve into the details of that report.
So you don't know yet how many dead voters have been expunged from the register?
No, but just to remind you that the KPMG cannot expunge any names from the register. They can make recommendations to us, and once we receive those recommendations, we will review them, and then we will be able to make those changes in the register. But for now, we believe that from the preliminary discussions we've had with them, a lot of the work that they have done is commendable, and it's doable within the period that we have. But there are other recommendations that are more far-reaching, that require institutional reforms, that require legislative changes to be able to do them.
All right. Tomorrow is day 2 of the appeal by IEBC in front of the Court of Appeal. What are you expecting from this case?
You know, Chairman Chebukati has said very clearly that for us, whatever decision comes out, the IEBC will abide by it. So we'll leave the courts to do their work, and whatever decision comes out of it, we'll follow the law and apply that law.
Do you believe that by the presidential results being declared at the constituency level will take away the right of the chairman as the presidential returning officer to do his work?
I think what we've been trying to say all along is that there is a lot of ignorance or lack of information about or mystery around the whole results management framework and how results are tallied from the constituency level to the national level. Right. And that is why at the national conference that we'll be having from next week, we will be going through with the Kenyans what we have outlined as a results management framework, so that people know we can demystify this whole thing of results and the anxiety that it places. Because for me, I look at the reactions that I'm seeing and some of the questions that are being raised around the appeal as more of people, doubting the transparency of the process. And we want to make sure that we have a transparent process. We'll be having a very transparent place at Bomas of Kenya, where we'll be announcing the results. It's an open floor where the media is invited to be able to oversee. The cameras will be there. And what we want to assure Kenyans is that there are no games we're playing. We want to ensure that we have a transparent process that satisfies the Kenyan people.
My last question to you, Madam. The KIEMS, the Kenya Integrated Election Management System, the tender was cancelled. What's the latest? Kenyans would want to know that. And are we going to face the challenge we faced in 2013 when, the election system arrived so late that, the IEBC officials were not able to familiarize themselves, and there were problems, especially with the EVIDs. Are we going to face the same problem?
Unlike 2013, this year we already have 35,000 kits in the country. We are expecting 10,000 kits anytime now. And so that we have a total of the 45 kits that are required. It's actually been really useful for us that 11,000 of those kits are the ones that were used, the KIMs are the ones that were used for purposes of verification of the register, the voters register, which means that Kenyans and our staff have had a chance to actually use the technology, the same technology that is going to be used during elections.
Right.
So I think in terms of the training, in terms of the availability of the technology, yes, that is being delivered on time, unlike 2013. But there are obviously concerns that we have as the IEBC in terms of transmission of results, because we know that the law requires that we transmit the results electronically, yes. But the country, the coverage of a 3G network in the entire country is very limited. So we are working with various providers to ensure that we deal with that challenge. But it is a challenge that Kenyans have to be aware of, that there are limitations in the country in terms of coverage, and that we all have to collectively find ways of dealing with them. And that if there are problems, when we are transmitting the results, it should not be perceived as games that the IEBC is playing, but it's actually a general problem that we have in terms of network coverage.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner.
I thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Good having you here. That is the Commissioner, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissioner, IEBC, that is Dr. Rosemary Akombe, just shedding some more light on these issues. Just a reminder of our big question tonight. Remember, 62 days to the general election on the 8th of August. We are asking you, have you verified your details, voter registration details, and if so, were they in order? Keep telling us. Text us at 22155 is our studio line. You can tweet us at Sophia Wanuna, at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya. The hashtag is KTN Prime. We shall be sampling some of those texts and tweets during this live newscast. We are taking a quick commercial break here on KTN Prime. We have more for you when we come back.